While the media focuses on a presidential outburst, the real story unfolds with a significant shift in Middle East policy. Ceasefires have been declared, hostages are being freed, and American interests are now at the forefront. Breaking news today.
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
Fox News reports that hosts are furious after President Trump used an expletive. It's hardly surprising that a president known for his honest speeches making headlines for using strong language. The real issue isn't the word itself, but rather a president who challenges the established norms. Let's get rolling.
Are you going to envy the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East, thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, be hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia has done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new zone in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
The agreement brokered last night represents a significant shift in the Middle East, addressing long-standing issues. This practical, step-by-step diplomacy stands in stark contrast to the ineffective grandstanding of previous efforts. Success depends on adherence to these terms, with Israel allowing aid into Gaza and Hamas releasing all hostages, setting the stage for genuine peace and security. For too long, both parties and the international community have merely paid lip service to peace, while the region endured continuous violence and broken promises. Saudi Arabia's involvement has been crucial. The kingdom has not only prioritized a genuine ceasefire in Gaza, but also ensured that humanitarian aid reaches those in need. This approach exemplifies real leadership, prioritizing American interests, supporting allies when they are correct, and holding them accountable when necessary. The new agreement between Israel and Gaza includes a phased ceasefire, exchanges of hostages and prisoners, and a roadmap for reconstruction and eventual withdrawal. With a new leadership approach in Washington prioritizing American interests and regional stability, we are witnessing substantial progress. The era of endless intervention and failed policies is behind us. Looking forward, three priorities are clear: maintaining the ceasefire and ensuring unimpeded delivery of aid, pushing for a political solution that includes Palestinian statehood without compromising Israeli security, and continuing to support internal reforms in Saudi Arabia and the broader region, particularly those that empower women and promote economic modernization.
I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
The previous White House's approach of appeasement, sending cash to Tehran and ignoring proxy terrorism while undermining Israel and American credibility, was clearly ineffective. This isn't isolationism. It's realism, aimed at preventing American involvement in endless conflicts due to avoidable provocations. The recent escalation between Iran and Israel highlights the dangers of relying on outdated tit-for-tat strategies, which not only jeopardize recent diplomatic efforts but also risk spiraling out of control. Israel's forceful response to a potentially unintentional rocket launch underscores the necessity for cooler heads and measured responses, especially given the current administration's emphasis on restraint. In contrast, Republicans advocate for a policy of strength and clarity, emphasizing defense of our interests, support for responsible allies, and accountability for transgressions. Democrats seem to hold on to outdated strategies, advocating for increased international oversight and more United Nations involvement, which historically have not secured peace or security. The current policy, decisive yet prioritizing American interests and demanding tangible results, offers a stark contrast to the previous administration's chaotic and ineffective approach. Americans are weary of serving as the world's policemen and expect partners to exercise restraint. The partisan divide in Congress is evident.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Wow, and that's too. A lot of people talking about the expletive at the end, but that's he just being honest.
He's furious.
Right.
I had the opportunity to just talk to him before we just went on air for the 8 o'clock hour, and I said, I haven't seen you this upset.
Fox News merits recognition for airing the president's straightforward comments and addressing his critiques of both Israel and Iran. When examining the situation between Israel and Iran, it's evident that the media often prioritizes sensationalism over substance, focusing on the president's choice of words rather than the underlying issues. The president's proactive stance, including urging Israel to exercise restraint, signals a shift towards a diplomatic approach that values strength but acknowledges the limitations of force. The president's frankness, His readiness to criticize both sides for losing sight of their goals after years of conflict echoes a widespread frustration among ordinary people weary of the repetitive cycle of violence and unsuccessful diplomacy. The contrast is stark. Under this leadership, the U.S. commands respect, our allies are clear on our stance, and our adversaries think twice before challenging us. Fox's coverage, notably more accurate and balanced than most, effectively highlights the details of the phased ceasefire, including not just a halt in military actions, but also the exchange of hostages and prisoners, increased humanitarian aid, and a clear strategy for Israeli repositioning. Even Fox occasionally succumbs to emphasizing dramatic language over the substantive policy changes being discussed. This fixation on an expletive exemplifies the disconnect between the political class and the genuine concerns of Americans. Incorporating more independent analysts who recognize the drawbacks of extensive military involvement and prioritize American interests could deepen the discourse and illustrate why this new approach is effective. Yet there is room to further highlight the contrast between these positive developments and the destruction wrought by years of inadequate international policies and ineffective United Nations actions, which continue to be endorsed by some political figures. The true story lies in the administration's push for restraint from all involved parties, a commitment to accountability, and a refusal to engage in endless military interventions. This honesty is refreshing in a media landscape where networks frequently serve as echo chambers for the globalist agenda. Why did past administrations perpetuate endless conflicts at a high cost to American families? These are the critical questions that need addressing, and the ones that viewers deserve answers to. Unlike the previous administration's approach of appeasing adversaries, the current administration insists on accountability. This type of detailed reporting is crucial, particularly when other outlets persist in rehashing ineffective policies that have only led to more instability in the region.
What's really going on? He had just hung up with Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, and he said that the prime minister is bringing all the planes back. I said, why are you so frustrated with Israel? And he says because he didn't feel like it was good faith, that even though they still had some time until the ceasefire, that they essentially unloaded on Iran. I said, what about Iran as it relates to some of the reports that they're still doing their program? He says they got to save face for the country.
Washington's frustration with Israel's actions before the ceasefire is understandable. Bads that push boundaries just hours before a truce undermine trust and jeopardize future negotiations. Recent decisive strikes on Iranian nuclear sites have significantly weakened the regime's threat to its neighbors. The U.S. administration's strategy of assertive action followed by strategic withdrawal has sent a clear message. American power is formidable, but should not be squandered on endless conflicts. This peace dividend is significant for ordinary Americans, contrasting sharply with the previous administration's approach of appeasing adversaries at the cost of American credibility and security. Meanwhile, Iran continues to advance its nuclear ambitions, a reality that has influenced major policy decisions in the region for decades. This isn't about taking sides in age-old disputes, but about advancing American interests with a strategy that is limited, effective, and strategically clear. For families across the country, less turmoil in the Middle East means more stability in their finances and daily lives, and a foreign policy that prioritizes American interests. We are currently experiencing a rare moment of clarity in a region often characterized by confusion and endless cycles of retaliation. Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision to recall all planes was more than a tactical maneuver. It acknowledged that escalating conflicts do not benefit Israel's long-term security or its allies' interests. The current administration's balanced stance, criticizing allies when necessary and standing firm against adversaries like Iran, marks a significant shift from past policies. Historically, any conflict in the Middle East has triggered spikes in oil prices, disrupting global markets and impacting American consumers at the gas pump. For American businesses, particularly in the energy, logistics, and manufacturing sectors, the end of this conflict heralds a return to certainty. With a credible ceasefire and the diminished Iranian nuclear threat, energy markets are stabilizing. Investments previously on pause can now proceed, and supply chains disrupted by military tensions can normalize. The real impact is felt on Main Street, where families benefit from stable fuel and food prices. As always, it's interesting to hear how they like to spin this. The outrage over President Trump's language is nearly the latest distraction by a media class that seems eager to sidestep real issues. Perhaps that's why their reactions are so vehement. They express shock over a single word, yet there was no comparable outrage when the previous administration, led by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, let down working Americans and allowed global interests to shape our future. The true scandal lies not in a word, but in a ruling class that fears losing its control. What do you think? Give us your thoughts below, plus don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back with more soon.